I'm a semi-professional wood turner, and I specialize in resin casting and really anything that has to do with resin or epoxies. I'm at the Powermatic Training Center in Vergne, Tennessee, and we're doing a 3-day training seminar. I am teaching a class on resin casting, turning, how to handle epoxies, anything from casting over wood to deep pour epoxies to how to turn it on your lathe, finish it. So pretty much about 10 years of resin casting all came into one class for a group of people. Okay, hi everyone, I'm Keith Lackner. It's a pleasure to be here today at the Powermatic Training Center. I'm going to be teaching resin today. So I'm going to take roughly about 10 to 12 years of resin knowledge, and I'm just going to cram it in your guys' head in about 8 hours. We're going to go through all the different types because over the years, resin has really taken off, and it gets a little confusing sometimes. What product do I use? Do I use this product? Do I use that product? Here's the application I want. This is what I want to do. A lot of times, because of the price of resin, people buy the wrong resin, and then they get frustrated and they stop what they're doing because they had a total failure and they just spent, $200 for a gallon of resin, and it was actually the wrong resin that they should have bought to start with. I'm going to take you through all the steps of all the different products. For casting, we're going to use Alumilite Clear Slow. I think that is the absolute best product on the market for casting pieces. I've been using it for roughly about 10 years now. I've cast probably thousands of pieces. I have pieces in galleries all around the US. That's what I actually sell as my work. It goes great with casting by itself, casting over wood. You can really cast over just about anything, but we're going to show you its limitations. And I think that's going to be what the big key is what is the right product and why? What are the failure points and why? We're going to go through casting. We're going to go through a deep pour. We're going to go through a smaller pour. So if you guys want to do like charcuterie boards or you want to engrave things into wood and you just want to use a little bit of resin on top to give your piece a little bit of an accent. And then hopefully in the end, we're going to do a little bit of turning. So I'm going to show you how to turn and polish it when it's done. And all the knowledge that I've gotten over the last 10 to 12 years has been from basically me failing. Okay, so you guys get to benefit from probably tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage that I've done. So I am here today to give you everything that I know. You guys can pick my brain. We're going to have a few projects for you. Like I said, we're going to start out with a charcuterie board. Now, the issue with the charcuterie boards that we're going to do today, we're going to use a different product than kind of what I would use if I was at home. Just for the simple fact that we have a time restriction here, guys. Okay, we've got to get the resin in, it's got to set in time, and then it's got to be able to get sanded off before you guys leave at 3 o'clock. The resin that we would use, you'd want to let it set overnight. So that's the Stone Coat countertop, or we could use Amazing Clear by Alumilite. Either one of those are perfectly fine. A tabletop epoxy is what you want to use. Because we have a short limited time, we're actually going to use what we would use for gluing pieces together. We're going to use a quick 15-minute epoxy. Okay, so with that being said, we're going to have to mix it up quick, give it to you guys. You're going to have to put it, whatever you had engraved in. We're going to hit it with the torch really quick, and then we're going to set them to the side and let them sit and do their thing, okay? The difference between casting resin and epoxy is the easiest thing is the amount of time it takes to go off. Okay, so when I use the phrase go off, going off means going from a liquid to a solid. There's a chemical reaction that happens that it starts to build heat, it goes up, and when it gets hot, probably around 200 to 220 degrees, that's when it goes from a liquid to a solid, when the two parts mix together. You can see in some instances, like the jugs that are right there in front of you, what do you guys see different about those jugs? Size. So that's a 2-to-1 ratio mix. So in the very beginning, when you saw the big river tables get done, you would see them actually just do a 1/4 inch at a time, a 1/2 inch at a time. Because it had too much heat. There was too much mass, too much heat. It would crack, it would smoke, it would burn. So you can't go very large. So they actually tweaked the recipes because it started taking off. People wanted to do the big 3-inch pours. So that's why they came up with that formula. So anytime you see a 2-to-1 ratio, okay, what it does is it just really elongates the heat up process. So it actually goes from going off in probably about 6 to 8 hours and then needing a full 48 to cure. That stuff will take probably about almost 3 days to set, and it'll take about a week and a half to cure. You could do those big massive tables that you see on YouTube that everyone likes. Is a 2-to-1 ratio. So you could pour 10 to 15 5-gallon buckets of that stuff. And then sometimes if you actually look to see too, they'll even put fans on there, or they'll have it on a chill table just so that with that big mass of resin that it doesn't heat up and crack on them. Not for me. By the time you look at it, they probably have about $8,000 in resin alone that they're pouring in those big tables, and by the time they're done, they're like $30,000, $40,000. I don't have the clientele to be able to justify trying to make a $40,000 table. So, all right, questions before we get started. Like I said, we're going to start with the charcuterie boards because we need to let those things set, and then after that, we're going to go into casting. So casting is fun. That's where everyone likes to. You get to have fun, you get to customize your own blank. Everyone's gonna get a piece of wood, you're gonna have a blank over there. We're gonna mix up some resin, you're gonna cast it, put it in the pressure pot, and it's gonna sit for about 4 hours. We're gonna pull it out, and then you guys are all gonna leave with a charcuterie board and your own casted blank. Start thinking of colors of what you want. So I recommend mica powders for this, just for the simple fact that if you use a translucent color, you're going to see the bottom of it. You're going to see the machining marks on there. I've got mine right here that we did in the first day. So these are mica powders. See how it's prominent? You can see it from a distance. The translucent dyes, you would see every router line that's in there. So I would recommend staying away from that. And then also we had somebody in the first class, not that it was wrong, but it's just something to think about. I would stay away from white. Just for the simple fact we're using maple blanks, the white, it got completely lost. You almost couldn't see the lettering that was there. If you were using a cherry or a walnut, go for it. You can stain these after the fact. We have a couple people in the first class asked if they could stain it after. Yes, and it will not affect the resin. The stain cannot absorb into the plastic resin. So when you're done, when we sand them, if you want to give them a nice little color to them or a little, you know, like a whitewash effect down there, you could do that fine afterwards. Start thinking of colors. We've got mica powders here. We got mica powders over there, over there. So just so everyone knows, this is liquid, and anything in a plastic container like this, or even small like that, are micas. So finish is important. So when they talk about food grade safe finishes, so just so everyone is aware, basically when finish cures, it's all food grade safe. When they're talking food grade safe, they want to make sure that if you take a thing of mineral oil, which is for cutting boards, if you stick your finger in there and you lick it, you're going to be perfectly fine. You're not going to need to go to the hospital. If you do the same thing with polyurethane, stick your finger in there and take a spoonful of it, you're going to be in the emergency room, okay? But when polyurethane cures and sets, you can place food on it, no problem. So what we're going to do is, this stuff is a 1-to-1, but this is the stuff that you would more likely use as a glue. Okay, this is a 15-minute epoxy. So it's got a really good strong hold to it. If you're doing something complicated where you've got like a, I don't know, like a couple bend pieces where you need that extra open time for glue, this is the stuff that you would use. In the very beginning, this was the stuff, to my knowledge, that a lot of woodworkers would use if they had a crack, because it is a glue, but they would color the crack so it actually enhanced the color of it. Instead of just, you know, putting putty in there and trying matching the color, they would actually go the opposite spectrum and actually try to enhance it, right? So this one's going to be a multiple pour. So I'm just going to do one section and then stop, and then I'll do another section and then stop. I'm going to hit it with the torch, just because all of this is, I'm going to have to get in there and squeeze, because these are all waves that are in there. So I'm going to go with just a little bit of blue. So here we go, find 1-to-1. You can see this stuff is very thick.
If it's warmer weather, is it thinner?
Yeah, one thing you could help yourself is warming it up in a bucket. What's that?
I used to just run it under hot water.
Yeah, absolutely. Mix it up really good. Make sure we're scraping the sides, bringing it back in.
How long do you usually mix it?
A few minutes. Make sure I get it all mixed up very well. Always make sure you're scraping the sides.
measure the blue powder?
Nah. Nah, people always ask me that, well, how much should I put in? Oh, about that much.
It don't take a lot though, does it?
So it doesn't take a lot of liquid, but when you get into the mica powder itself, I'm sorry, the mica powder takes more. Liquid takes way less. Make sure when you get it in there, you're going to push it down. Now we're going to do kind of two techniques with this. Make sure we push it down. Now there are bubbles that are in there. So what we don't want to do is leave a big mound like that right there. We don't want to leave something like that, right? For the simple fact that it's going to be more difficult for the heat to do its job to break it down. And once the heat is applied to it, it actually is going to break up the surface tension and it is going to liquefy it more, making it, the air is going to be less dense than the resin at that point. It's going to raise to the top and it's going to pop. Just got to make sure. What we're going to do now is I will probably handle the torches just because I want you guys to concentrate on this, and then when I hit it with the torch, you're going to manipulate it some more. So the most important thing about the torch is all the torch is going to do is heat up the resin to the point where the air that's trapped underneath it is less dense. So the air will now be able to escape, come up, and then pop. Okay? So all we're going to do, you'll see it start to bubble. You see that? Got little tiny bubbles going. Most important thing is I am not touching the torch with the resin. Staying above it. But that's as thick as I want you guys to be right there. You see how far above your lettering and everything we are? So I'm just going to kind of come and move back and forth again. Maybe free up a couple bubbles. Heat it up too much, you will actually see your resin start to burn and it'll start to smoke. Okay. So if you guys saw, I never got close to it. I never made contact with it. I was always back about 6 to 8 inches from it, and I was just fanning it the entire time. I never stayed in one spot and laid on it. Okay. So that's the important thing, is to make sure that you're fanning into it. Go ahead and mix your copper in there, start mixing it up. All right, I got it. There you go, that's going to be enough. Perfect, just like that. That's going to look good. Oh yeah, that's definitely going to look good. Hit you again. So, remember when I told you guys about, real quick, touch the bottom, real fast.
Wow, that's fun.
Yeah, real fast. Anyone wants to see? Just real fast, touch it really, really fast.
Oh, yeah.
Just to let you know the heat that you're dealing with. Again, this is the wrong product. That's why it heated up this bad. See what else happened to it? It burned, okay? We started out, we were clear, now we're this really nasty yellow applesauce looking color, okay? Simple fact is we used the wrong product for what we were doing. We went too thick. This is way too thick for this product. So when the heat built up, it just kept building, 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 superheat. It started to burn this. Everyone just touched the bottom of it. It is super, super hot. So one thing is, I'm not gonna throw this in the garbage can. It will not start a fire, I promise you. But again, let's just not play that game, okay? come around, like I said, collect all your cups, because now we're gonna cast. Everyone's gonna get a casted piece as well. So what I want everyone to do is go up there, grab a mold. The white mold, it's a 1 3/4 by 1 3/4 by 6.5. We're gonna grab a mold. And then right next to it, you got a block of wood. Okay, so here's your option. Make sure the wood fits. Some of them, they might be really, really tight. We just got to kiss them with the butt sander really quick. Belt sander, not butt sander. Yeah, that's the new model. You're just not in the loop yet. 2026 is release date. If you got a small one like that, you could put 2 in, 1 on each end if you choose. If it don't fit, huh? If it doesn't fit, I'm just gonna go out there with the belt sander really quick. All right, so I got these. I got a kiss on a belt sander really quick. Any more? So molds and colors. So let's talk about that really quick. So that's one of the questions I get asked more than you would possibly imagine are my molds. I am not a connoisseur of molds. If it works, I use it, okay? The UHMW that you all have in front of you, those are reusable molds. There's reusable molds and there's throwaway molds. When I mean throwaway molds, I mean you're going to put it on the lathe with the mold still on it, or you're going to cut it away with your bandsaw and throw it in the garbage. Okay. Right here on the bottom, I've got again, we're big into Menards and where I live, so these are sonotubes for concrete. You buy them in 4 to 6 foot sticks. You could get a bunch of molds out of this thing, but you're only going to get a one-time use out of this. You're going to cast on it. I'm going to put it on my lathe, turn it. Or I'm going to put it in my bandsaw and I'm just going to kind of trim it away. One thing I don't recommend is the bottom. I've got MDF on the bottom, okay? Because this is a throwaway mold. I'm not going to spend a lot of money for that. So, I mean, this mold right here, if I did the price of this, I probably got about maybe $3 into this thing, okay? It's good for a one-time throwaway. If I have a specific hollow form or vessel that I'm going to turn, I'm going to pre-cut my burl, this big honker right here. I'm going to make them fit inside of there. So what am I doing? I'm saving money on my resin, right? So if I make a square tube, is what I started doing in the very early days. I had a square box that I just made out of UHMW. A lot of waste in there because the corners, you're going to trim it away. You're going to cut it into a circle. You might be able to save the corners for pen blanks, but for the most part, you're going to throw it on the floor, okay? Unfortunately, wood turning is one of the only things that we do as woodworkers where 90% of the wood that you buy ends up on the floor, right? When we make cabinets, we utilize as much of the material as possible to build things. Wood turning, I've yet to find a vase-shaped tree. If you guys find one out there, let me know, because I'm gonna cut that sucker down. You spend a lot of money, you put 90% of it on the floor. Same thing with resin, but this way we can kind of control our waste a little bit more. You have a mold that could be used for handle stock, wine stoppers. Okay, you cut it in half right down the center. You have 2 wine stop blanks at that point. And then you also could cut it with a bandsaw with a really good fine blade. You could cut it in fourths and have 4 pen blanks. That's the way I've designed this blank, okay? But at home, do 4 at a time. So make your mold a larger square. So like a 6 by 6 square is perfect, so you get multiple blanks out of it, so you're gonna pour. The problem with doing 1 at a time is you're gonna occupy your pressure pot. Well, you only have 1 blank in there. This way you could put multiples in there and then cut it all up and everything. So it's just a matter of utilizing what you have. I batch everything out. I think it's more efficient of my time to actually cast 4 blanks at once than 4 little individual blanks, trying to cut each little square to get it down in there to fit just right. So those are just my recommendations. Now I want to talk about wood. So if you want to cast just nothing but resin on there, you're fine. Just pour the resin into it and you're fine. If you're going to use wood, we got to make sure that we prepare the wood. So everything that I like to buy and put in there is big leaf maple burls. I really like it. I think to me, it's one of the prettiest woods out there. And for the price, you just can't beat it. The figure is amazing. It's a neutral color, so you can use any color that you want and it kind of goes with it. Versus like a walnut or maybe a buckeye, you're going to pay a lot more money for it, but you're kind of limited, in my opinion, to colors that it kind of goes with. You know what I mean? Maple's a neutral, you can use any color under the spectrum and it kind of goes with it. So the wood's got moisture in it. Polymer resin hates moisture. That's in my opinion, its only downfall is it hates moisture. The easiest way that I can explain it is that, does everyone in here use Gorilla Glue? You guys have used Gorilla Glue. That is a polymer-based glue. What happens to Gorilla Glue? What's it known for? Foams. That's the reaction that a polymer-based glue or epoxy, when it touches moisture. That's why they say if you actually read the instructions on Gorilla Glue, it tells you to moisten one side of your joint. That's exactly what they're doing. They want that chemical reaction for it to foam out. That's what causes the foaming on your Gorilla Glue when you glue up that bond, that joint. Same thing will happen with Alumilite. If you pour it over wood or you pour it over anything and it's got moisture to it, it will foam, okay? In the very beginning, everyone thought that bubbles come from whipping it aggressively too hard and it didn't have time to get, no, that's not it. It has nothing to do with it at all. Pressure pot will pulverize all your bubbles. The bubbles come from moisture. And it could be moisture from the wood. It could be pigments. I've had people call me up and say, hey, it literally violently bubbled over. It was almost like the spray foam insulation out of their mold. And as we walked through every step, we found out, I said, well, what pigments are you using? Ones I bought from Michael's. I said, well, let me see them. They were watercolors. Because they're watercolor artists, and so they use those. Nope, all they did was basically pour water into it, and it violently foamed out. I always say this, if you're going to buy Alumilite Clear Slow, buy their dyes. They've got every color that there is. The simple thing is you know it's going to work, it's going to be compatible. They've made their products so that they go together, okay? It's just the easiest thing starting out. Now, mica powders are a different story. They're a dry powder. You can get them from wherever you want to. I've never had a reaction or anything from a mica powder ever. So the wood, we've got to make sure that we get it dry. So when I mean dry, the industry standard for dry wood is about 12%. 8 to 12% depending on where you live. It all goes off your atmosphere and how much moisture is in your atmosphere according to where you live. Now that is still way too much for casting over top of. You got to get it way below that. So I'm talking to the point where you're almost at 0%, where your moisture meter will not even read. Moisture meters usually stop working under 5%. You'll get an error code on your moisture meter, and that's what I want to see. I want my moisture meter, I want to plug it in, and I want it to say error or lines all the way across because it doesn't read or pick up anything. At that point, we're going to get there, we're going to put it in an oven. Toaster oven. Don't recommend the home oven. I have done it before to dry wood. I have a large house oven in my shop, but toaster ovens work just fine. I used one for years to dry wood and stabilize it. Used it for years, it's perfectly fine. 220 degrees. That is the magic temperature that you're going to use, 220 degrees. Water boils at 212 degrees. We want to get above the boiling point of water. So now here's the reason why I say 17%. So I have had a lot of practice drying wood, and I will tell you that to me the threshold is 17%. If I'm under 17% and under, and I start putting it in the oven at 220 degrees, my chances of it cracking have gone way down. My chances of getting micro tears in fibers have gone way down. Okay, I don't see micro tears in the fibers under 17%. Cracking is very, very rare if I do get a piece that cracks. Normally it's because there's a knot or something that's in there and it's just splitting off that knot. But a good burl like that, if it's 17%, I've got no problem throwing that in my oven. Above 17%, I have had a lot of issues where I'm starting to turn and all of a sudden I start getting tears. Everyone understand the micro tears? It's just there's too much moisture in there and I'm evaporating too much too quick and the wood is stressed, so it's cracking and splitting. So I have micro tears through the whole bottom of my my piece, along the side and along the bottom of it. So once I get it down under 17%, now I'm going to stabilize the wood. Okay? Stabilizing wood is just injecting it with resin and then activating the resin so that water and moisture cannot seep back into the wood. That's all we're doing. We're also taking a really, really gnarly, and it also makes the fibers of the wood rock solid, okay? So if you can imagine just taking a rope and dipping it in water, taking it out, and then it hardens after that. So all the little microfibers inside of the wood, they're hardening. They're becoming rock solid. So you're taking a wood that might have a lot of spalting in it or some punkiness to it that's really soft, something you couldn't normally turn. you're going to make it rock solid again. It's going to be as hard as like a piece of ebony or a piece of Coca-Cola, okay? Yeah, it's great for that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you a little example we have up here with our stabilizing chamber. So you've gotten all the moisture out. You're going to submerge it inside the chamber. You're going to get it below the levels of the resin. So the resin is going to be poured in. This is a liquid at this point. It will not activate itself. When we pour epoxies together or the other resin, we pour the two together, it causes that chemical reaction when the two hit, that it heats up and it goes from a liquid to a solid. This stuff right here will never turn solid. It needs an external heat source to make it turn solid, okay? That's why I said when this was up in the attic at Mark Adams, they brought it down, it activated. When you get this stuff in the mail, it will actually have the little bottle of catalyst with it. You mix it in there, shake it up, and you're fine. I'm going to tell you right now, the reason why Curtis does that is because he lives in Texas. He has no control of this going into a refrigerated transportation car or anything like that. If it's inside of a rail car or something, it gets to about 120 degrees. He has had clients that open up their package and it was a solid mass. So that's why it ships with the container. All you do is just open it up, pour it in there. One thing I do is I just pour a little bit back in there, put the lid on, shake it up to make sure you get all the catalyst out, pour it back in there, tighten your cap, and then shake it up really good, and it is good to use. Okay, that's all you have to worry about doing with this stuff. So in my shop, I've got a stabilizing chamber like this. I've got a vacuum pump just like this. The only difference is that we're doing for demonstration purposes is that we're just kind of pouring the resin into a small cup and putting it in there, so we don't have to worry about cleaning this after the weekend. In my shop, what I have is I have resin filled all the way up to here, and I'm just dropping chunks of wood in there, weighing it down. We weigh it down because wood is wood. It's buoyant. It's going to float. All wood wants to float. So it's going to float to the top. So the easiest way that I've come to explain stabilizing is all we're doing is trying to get the air out. Right here, you've got the burl. You can see right here is our level that we put cactus juice in. We need to get all that air out, okay? As long as there's air in there, resin cannot get inside of there. Can't get deep into it. If you take a sponge, a natural sponge, it's got loaded with air. It's got all those voids that are in there loaded with air. If you just set that on top of it, what's going to happen? Nothing. It's going to float on the top. Maybe a little bit's going to seep in, and that's about it. If you take it and push it down inside of it, what's going to happen? Basically about the same thing. The surface all the way around it might absorb a little bit of resin, but that's about it. It's not going to happen. Now you take that sponge, you squeeze it in your hand, get all that air out of it, you shove it down into that thing of water and you open it up, what's going to happen? It's going to suck all that water up into it and it's going to be saturated. You're going to lift it up and it's going to be pouring out. That's what we want to get. So in order to get that, to get all the fibers deep into the block of wood, we need to evacuate all the air out of it. We do that with vacuum, okay? So let me take a piece of Buckeye, because Buckeye will give us the coolest reaction. Okay, so I'm going to take a piece of Buckeye. So, and I don't have one stabilized. I kind of do. First, we got to talk about, we're to the point where we're talking about stabilizing our wood, right? We want to inject and or infuse our wood with resin, okay? The resin that we're using is stabilizing resin, okay? There is a huge difference between this resin and any other resin we're going to play with today. The biggest thing is that, one, it does not self-activate. Everything else we use self-activates itself. I mean, when you put the A and the B together, a chemical reaction goes off, it starts building up heat, it goes from a liquid to a solid. This stuff does not. So when it goes into the wood, it goes back, it soaks deep into the wood. What we have to do is we actually have to take it out of our vacuum chamber when all the bubbles are gone and it's soaked. We take it, we put it back in the oven at 220 degrees. It will then activate itself. So we're actually forcing it to activate, okay? So the biggest question I always get asked is, well, how long do you leave it in the vacuum chamber for? I don't know. It's an answer I cannot give anybody, okay? I've had burls that came from the same exact tree, different locations, one on the south side, one on the north side, or vice versa. They were burls that I knew because I bought basically the whole tree worth of burls. They showed up. I could stabilize one. They went in the oven at the same time. They were cut on the same day. Everything. One burl took 4 hours longer than the other burl did. So that's something that I can't answer to you. And I'd be very leery if somebody said, oh yes, you could do it in 14 hours or 12 hours or whatever. No, nobody could tell you how long it takes, okay?
Are you only able to tell just by the quantity, the volume of the material that's now gone out of?
So
How do you know that it's stopped?
So the rule of thumb is that if it took you 6 hours, 7 hours to get the bubbles out of it, to where you introduce oxygen back into it, let it soak for 7 hours. There is no such thing as allowing it to over soak. It's like a sponge, it'll shut off once it's full, okay? You can under soak it, absolutely. But like I said, if you stick to the rule of thumb of it took me 8 hours to get the bubbles out, another 8 hours. In my shop, I'm never in a big rush while I'm stabilizing. So what I'll do is I'll stabilize until I get no bubbles, throw that valve, reintroduce oxygen into it. You'll see the level drop immediately. You'll see it start to drop lower and lower. I'll leave it in there for 24 hours.
Perfect.
Look at that. So we're completely submerged. You get the best ooh-ah moment when you put it in your vacuum chamber. So this thing's it might go a little violent, it might not, but everybody is safe. Yeah. Okay, so here we go. So watch what's going to happen. We're going to close off that part, turn it on. Yeah.
But then with the hard maple or something solid.
About half is that.
You know,
Yeah.
you'll even see half that.
Half that, half the bubbles, yeah. You'll start to see it like come out, but it's going to be, I'll tell you, you might be like that, but it's going to be more constant. It's not going to go. This is going to do this for probably about another hour and a half, 2 hours, and then it's going to stop.
So what is it you're doing to that right
I'm drawing air out.
But lowering the air pressure.
Every single void that is
So-
in that piece of wood is being infiltrated with
Yeah.
cactus juice.
Nope. All I'm doing is pulling air out, so I'm not pushing yet. So it can't push in as long as I'm keep pulling out. So one of the big questions I always get asked is, when we're casting, why don't we use vacuum instead of a pressure pot? That's one of the questions I get asked all the time. The reason is because the wood actually has air still trapped into it. So if you're putting your resin on top, what are you doing? You're still pulling the air out, so you're going to get bubbles inside of it by the time it goes off. So all we're doing is just pulling air. That's all we're doing is pulling air, pulling air, pulling air, pulling air. The second I open up that valve, shut this off, it's going to act like a piston. When that air goes in there, it's going to slam cactus juice inside of it. You're going to see that level all of a sudden just drop. And all that goes forced into the wood. And then I'm going to let it soak for a while after that.
So this is the squeeze.
This is the squeeze. This is me squeezing all of the air out. I got to get all the air out, because if I didn't get the air out, the resin wouldn't be able to penetrate in there. It would get hit by an air bubble and then just stop. So if you want to think about it, it actually is acting like a shield. So it's the resin can't get inside to actually penetrate all of the fibers of the wood because it's being stopped by the air bubbles. We've got to get all that air out of there.
Do you have to use an oil-based vacuum pump, or can you use the oilless?
You can use whatever it takes to draw out. I don't really don't have patent on different vacuum pumps, don't care, as long as it could draw. It has to be on continuous. Like right now, we're at 29 mercury. Yep. Yeah, we're at 29 mercury. Now, this is where I always tease and have a good time. Who are my engineers? I'll find you. I will find you. Engineer? Yeah. So it's all barometric pressure, and it all goes off of the your sea level. So I always tell people 29, okay? Because if you live in Chicago, Illinois, where I'm at, we're at 1,200 feet, okay? To get zero oxygen is like 29. If you live in New York, you're a little bit lower. You're at 28.97439 or whatever, and I'm like, it's 29. So 29. Wherever you live, even in Louisiana, you're below sea level there, you're gonna be like 28, 29. So I always tell everyone just 29. Curtis Seaback does have a graph and a chart on his website where you can go, because he is that person that wants to live in the 4th or 5th decimal point. And if that's you, that's fine. It's just, I am a simpleton. I just find the simple ways. Hey, I round to the next number.
So you're not trying to control the amount of suction, you're just letting it go as
letting it go. I've got all the oxygen out of there. I'm at 29 mercury right now. There is 0 oxygen inside that chamber right now. And it's just gonna keep drawing. You gotta make sure your pump is on. When you're putting pressure inside of your casting chambers, you hit it up to 30 or 80 pounds we're gonna be at, I unhook the air hose. Because it's that constant 80 pounds that's in there. This, you need to continuously draw out oxygen, right? Because the oxygen is coming out from there, you need to get it out. So you're just constantly pulling oxygen out of there, okay?
Because we can't get the cactus juice in it unless it's
Correct, yes. All right, so what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna throw the valve. We've seen about enough. You see how quick it went to settling down? Yeah. Probably within another hour and a half, it'll be all gone. It just be sitting in there, just clear liquid is all you're gonna be looking at. Okay, so we're gonna open up so we don't get any backfeed back to our pump. Gonna open up, watch the liquid level drop. It's not gonna drop as drastically, but it will drop.
So now there's vacuum inside the liquid in that.
No, well, no, it's actually, it's in the wood. When you put oxygen back in, the chamber all around it's got no oxygen. Now you're pushing oxygen in there and it's acting like a piston and it's actually shoving it down. So you can see right now just how low that level is now.
wow. Yep.
And it'll continue to go low. This one, did you guys see where it was when I pulled it out? Yeah. We had that thing full all the way up there. It absorbed that much cactus juice throughout the night. Yep.
So you remove the internal pressure pushing out, and then when you vented it, it kind of turned it into outside pressure.
Yes, 100%. Okay. Yep. So all we did is if the wood was this big, that pressure in, it filled this much of it. We still got that core that we've got to seep in there. So we're just going to let it sit, do its thing overnight. Like I said, a good rule of thumb is if it took us 6 hours to get all the bubbles out, just let it sit for 6 hours. But again, I mean, I've let them sit in there while I went on a week's vacation. Doesn't do anything at all. Just make sure you keep it submerged in there, okay? Like a sponge, it's going to shut itself off. It's going to say, I can't take any more liquid. I'm done. Thank you very much.
And then from there we go to the oven.
We go to the oven because we have to now activate it. Every one of your pieces have been activated. I did it before we came here this weekend. Yeah, 220 degrees for as long as it took. So if your magic number was 7 hours, the easiest way I can tell you is 777. If it's 8 hours, it's 8 hours to draw your bubbles out, 8 hours to soak, and 8 hours in your oven. Open up your oven and you start seeing these crystals on top forming, you know it's set. You're fine, you can pull it out. Okay, so everybody has their piece, right? Their mold, right? So what I want everyone to do is come over to me one at a time. We're gonna glue them into the bottom. I'm just gonna use a little dab of hot glue, and then we're gonna push them inside the mold.
Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome. Then push it down with your finger. Push down with your finger. These dies right here, they're translucent, meaning you can see through them. You can build depth through them. If your object is to have just one color where you want to see all the pinning on your pieces, so go very little. When I mean very little of the liquid, it takes, I mean, like your stir stick, touch your stir stick with a little bit of it, and that's going to be enough. People don't believe it, but that liquid stuff goes an exceptionally long way. Okay, mica powder is the exact opposite. To get a really cool effect, you're going to use way more mica powder than you think. People put like mica powder in there and they're like, well, is this good? No, about 3 times as much. Absolutely. Because you want the mica powder to kind of hold together and to be really, really cool color for you. So one thing I tell people is I always like to have what's called a base color first, and that's always a translucent color. Or I choose to just go clear. Put a clear color in there and then kind of drop different mica powders in there, and it gives a really cool effect. So the effect that gives is seen in this right here. I started with clear base. Kind of be careful, I'll walk it around a little bit.
Very cool.
So I started clear, and then what I did was just slowly drop very small amounts of mica powder. Here's another kind of effect that I have where I used multiple different tones of blue to give depth. Okay? So I used a lot of blue and then a little bit of blue, and then I put a little bit of blue mica powder together and mix it up. The different tones of one color will also give you depth. I'm gonna have 2 mixing cups because one of them is gonna be completely full for that. I'm gonna use this as my mold. Now we are to the point where we've stabilized our wood, we got everything ready, we're all set to go. Now we're gonna use Alumilite Clear Slow, okay? Alumilite Clear Slow, unlike epoxies, is by weight. These are brand new jugs, not even opened up. What do you see? Think that guy wasn't doing his job right? We got way more A than B. This is bull crap, I'm calling. B weighs more than the A does. That's why it's by weight. So as we start getting lower and lower down to the bottom, we're gonna run out at the same time. And when I weigh this stuff out, I use gram weight. It's a tighter tolerance. So if I'm off just a little bit, it's not gonna matter at all. If I start measuring by ounces, there's people I know that measure by ounces. I keep telling them why. If you're a little bit off, you know what? Maybe it doesn't blend right, maybe it doesn't mix right, maybe it's still soft and gooey when it comes out because his ratios were off. He had too much A or too much B. Always measure to gram weights. Okay, that's what I live by. That I always say, aim small, miss small. Right? That's the motto with this. Aim small, miss small. We're gonna get funky with this last one. You guys want to get funky with it?
Well, 100 C is boiling, so that's equal to 212, 200 pp.
Bring them up and put streaks and wood and stuff. It's for like.
So I know these hold 4 cups. So this is 4 cups by itself, and that's a half a cup. I know that just from experience. What I recommend to people is take rice, because you got to figure out volume. So take rice, lay the rice down in there, take it out and measure it, okay? I've already done the homework for you guys. I know 1 cup of Alumilite is 265 grams. In my book, I do have a conversion chart. So if it's 1 cup, 2 cup, 3 cup, it's all spelled out for you how much A and how much B to use. Please do not think that that works for all resins. It only works for Alumilite Clear Slow, because I took the time, that's all I use, so I actually measured it out. So we've got everything that we need. We've got all of our cups, all of everything laid out. So what I'm gonna do, just to recap, we're gonna come around, I'm gonna give you guys all the clear in the front buckets. After I'm done with the clear, it's up to you guys to mix it in, right? You're gonna pick your base color first, whichever that base color is that you've chosen. That's gonna go in and take up most of the volume that you're going to do. Or if you're gonna do a mix of everything is fine. One thing I don't recommend is, I don't see anybody doing it, but mica colors do not blend together, right? If you don't mix them together, they won't blend together. The liquids, they will blend together. I've had so many people say, hey, I did 9 colors and it came out and it was brown. Well, yeah, you took every color and you just put it in a blender and mixed it up. Yes, that's what's going to happen. If you're going to do multiple colors and you want something like that, something where it's not going to bind together, use more mica powders, okay? So I always tell people, my base color is either a clear or a color, and then after that, that's when I drip on the mica powders for all the accent colors, okay? Once this drops in, it's go time regardless, so right now, I'm gonna mix up about 6 cups. Okay, so 6 times 265. 6 times 265. That gives me 1,590. I am rounding way up, so on this scenario, I'm just gonna round down. I'm gonna go 1,500. Half 1,500, 750. So 750 grams of A and B, okay? All right. Everyone okay? Ready to go, right? Because the second this is going to happen. When you're done, what I want you guys to do is say done. I'll come over, grab it, I'll put it in the carrier, and once the carrier is loaded, I'll drop it in, right? So we got 3, 6, perfect. Okay. This is where you just get to play and have fun with it. Drop it in, whatever you want. I go up probably almost all the way up with my base color, almost all the way up to that line, and then use the rest of it. So if I had to buy this brand new, it'd be like $2 grand, because it's a stainless steel Binks pot. I mean, that's I think I only paid about $300 for it when I bought it. I bought it from a company that was going out of business, a painting company. So you guys notice in the corners of all yours, you have what's called springback. So resin is elastic. So as it's starting to, yeah, I had to think about that word sometimes too. So it has this kind of a rubber band effect. So as it's getting ready to go, starts setting up and curing, it's pulling, and it's pulling. But you really don't ever see it until it's in the mold right there. That's why when I make my molds, it's supposed to be 6 inches, we're like 6.5 inches. So it gives you enough to take it over a chop saw, just cut that off. You're probably gonna have to get in with a screwdriver and pry those things out. Hey, yeah, that looks great. So what I'm gonna say about turning resin loves to be scraped. Plain and simple. It loves high speeds and it loves to be scraped. That's where a turner will excel. Does it cut? Absolutely it cuts. I could cut with a bowl gouge, I cut with a roughing gouge all day long. When I make Frosties, I'll throw big ribbons with my bowl gouge, ripping it down. You do have limitations with resin though. Resin likes to be, like I said, spun really fast and little cuts taken off of it. That's why scrapers far exceed bowl gouges, okay? Bowl gouge wants to take off a big, huge honking chunk of wood, okay? If you try to do that, you're gonna put too much stress on it, you're gonna crack. Have you guys ever looked and seen on the web sites or people saying, I'm trying to turn resin and it's cracking and shattering on me, this stuff is crap? Two things cause that. One, sharpness of tools. Sharpness of tools is always the most important thing, whether you're turning wood or you're turning anything. Even if in your flat work, a table saw blade is the most dangerous thing if the blade is dull. Speed is the second most important thing and where probably 90% of all the problems come from. When I mean speed, I mean RPMs as well as travel speed, okay? So you've got to find that happy medium with the RPMs that are spinning with how big of a cut and how fast I'm moving, okay? You want to see a ribbon. You're going to see this beautiful ribbon that's going to come across here in a few seconds when I start turning on this stuff. That's what you want to see, a ribbon. I could get a ribbon going at 600 RPMs, I get a ribbon at 800 RPMs. Because I know at 600 RPMs, I have to take less of a cut and I have to move very slow, okay? If I'm at 2,000 RPMs or 2,800, I can get in there a little bit tighter and I can really remove some material pretty doggone quick. The other part of turning, I'm going to tell you, is with carbide tip tools. This is my tool. I designed this tool. It's got my name on the barrel. I have this cut at about a 30-degree angle. That's the angle that I came up with. What does this do? It makes it less aggressive, allowing you to move faster because it's not feeding in, it's not wanting to take so much material off, it's not wanting to stress. A lot of people get the big, huge, easy wood with the big, huge cutter on there. They get in there and they get themselves into trouble where it starts hitting hard and it starts breaking and starts tearing out grain because they're removing too much. The diameter of the cutter is so large that you have so many points of contact that's actually touching the wood. So you're tearing your wood out, whether it's wood fibers or the resin, same thing. Take less cuts. Less is more. Just remember that, less is more. If I'm struggling with it, back yourself up, move over a little bit, and just take a little light cut, and you're going to see you're actually going to remove more material in a shorter amount of time than try and take big honking cuts out with your tools, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to rough this down a little bit with a spindle roughing gouge. Then I'm going to come across the front with my tool and I'm going to show you a ribbon. When I'm talking about a ribbon, it's going to be this really cool ribbon that's going to come right off my tool and flow over the top of everybody. One good thing to always do is always make sure when you first start turning, you got that piece on the lathe for the very first time, we always make sure our tailstock is engaged, okay? Right now, this is the safest this piece will be while we're roughing it out. I've got a very small jaw opening. Okay, right now about 1,700 RPMs. So I got this nice ribbon coming off. I'm taking my time. I'm taking little slight cuts. That's what I want to see. That right there. Okay? Thank you very much. So I'm going to tell you there's a couple of tips that are going to happen. So one problem with having a stringer that's coming off like that is it does like to come across, grab a hold of your chuck, and then do one of those things, okay? There's two things that could help that from happening, not cure it from happening. In my shop, I have a fan right here. Got the fan on low, medium. So as it comes up, the fan hits it and it goes over. That's why I said I have a garbage can right here. I'm not that good where I could stand there and strategically hit that garbage can every time. And I got a piece of cardboard that I use as like a backboard to open the diameter of the garbage can. It's just I know because the fan will draw it over in that general direction. Okay? And then the second is if it does grab a hold of chuck and spin up, keep a toothbrush nearby. Touch the toothbrush with it, it'll automatically break all apart. Okay, I'm right at center. This is where you want this tool. I'm going to come up just a little bit because I want to be at center. Make sure, scrapers always kind of want to be at center when we're cutting. Okay, there we go. Make sure that your scraper handle and flute and barrel is parallel to the bed of your lathe, okay? That's where you want a scraper to be at. Again, I've taken, because what you don't want to do on a normal scraper is be like that. That's going to be really aggressive. It's going to slap and it's going to want to come down on you because the centrifugal force of the piece is coming around this way. If you got it up like that, it's just going to grab it down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, I'm going to make a couple cuts for you really, really quick. I'm just going to show you how fast and easy I can make a cut on this. That's just the center I'm grabbing. It's all gone. But you saw how much material I removed so fast. I think the students had a great time. Everyone was talking about how much they enjoyed their time here. Everyone got to learn new tricks of the trades. We had a bandsaw class going on as well as a turning class. At first, people never got to use resin, so they were a little on the fence of whether they liked it or not. After learning all the different techniques, now they're able to go out there and tackle jobs that they probably wouldn't be able to do or even think about before. So I know this opened up a whole different avenue for these people to actually try new things.